Hello everyone, Alec Elger the SideQuest Gamer here, and ever since Sonic Forces came out early in November of 2017, it has gotten mixed reception. Some fans are unsurprisingly disappointed, while others find it to be fun for what it is. I wouldn't be surprised if a few even love it, but from my observations, they're a very vocal minority. While I've yet to play Forces for myself, the addition of de novo DRM on the PC release is making me hold off on purchasing it for myself. I mean, the last thing I want to do is monetarily tell Sega it's perfectly okay to implement this infamous form of DRM despite fan backlash when they did that to Mania. You gotta vote with your wallet, folks, and I vote no to de novo DRM, no to Sega, and no to Sonic Forces until they get rid of it. And from the looks of it, it doesn't really look like something that'll make me run out and buy it. But coming off the universal praise of Sonic Mania, some are questioning whether the modern Sonic formula, did this gameplay style ever work in the first place? Now, this gameplay style technically started with Unleashed daytime stages and side-scrolling stages, but Colors was where the standard of modern Sonic design philosophy was set for the fans. Other than the Wisps, there were no gimmicks except for a fusion of 2D and 3D platforming, meant to be replayed over and over for collecting the red rings and getting a better stage ranking. So folks, it's time to once again go back in time, but this time to the point where I reviewed Sonic Colors with Innocent Christoph Gavin. And me being a SideQuest gamer and all, that's perfectly easy.
Sonic Colors, one of the most beloved Sonic games, period. It's been claimed to have saved the entire franchise after a dark age of terrible games, and it sold gangbusters with both the Wii and DS versions selling over 1 million copies worldwide. For this review, we will be focusing all of our attention on the Wii version specifically, as Gavin and I will review the DS version separately way down the line, so based on what Gavin has already said about Sonic Colors' reception, I mean, could it really be that good? Well, I'd like to share my personal history with Sonic Colors. I first saw it on that Nintendo Channel application on the Wii way past its release date. I searched Sonic and found ads for both the Wii and DS version of the game. They looked like fun, especially the Wii version, so I put it on my list of games I should check out for the Wii, and much later I bought it off my friend for $10 and enjoyed it quite a bit when I popped it in when I got home from school. But it's been a while since I last played it. With you growing up with the Wii, what was your personal history with the game, Gavin?
I remember being so freaking excited to play this game back in 2010. That year, I had finally caught up on all of the Sonic games I hadn't played, so I was ready for something new. Before that, I played all of the classics through the GameCube Sonic Mega and Gems collections, had loved and adored the likes of Sonic Adventure 1, 2, Heroes, and Shadow, and I got a 360 in 2008 with Sonic Unleashed. When I finally got my Wii in 2009, I played Secret Rings and Black Knight. So, yeah, I've had a long history with the franchise before Sonic Colors, but again, 2010 was the year that I had finally caught up with the franchise. Sonic Colors had a somewhat interesting development history. 2008's Sonic Unleashed was one of the best-selling games in the franchise, but had mixed fan reception and very negative critical reception. This led Sonic Team to take a more careful approach with their next major Sonic title.
So for this next entry, Sonic Team looked at what the fans liked and disliked about not just Sonic Unleashed, but also previous installments, which can be summed up as Sonic's Day Stage is good, Werehog Stage is bad. Gavin and I don't hold these beliefs, but we're just two people out of the millions of Sonic fans that did hold disdain towards the Werehog stages. It did defy tradition established in the series. The reason we bring up the Werehog stages is because Sonic Team made it clear there would be no game-changing gimmicks this time. Sonic Team also wanted the game to have an interplanetary amusement park aesthetic to incorporate this game's variety of level themes. These were the major goals of development.
Perhaps most interesting of all is that Sonic Team specifically designed this game to appeal to Mario fans, as Colors was released for Nintendo consoles exclusively. The more cynical side of me thinks it's why Sonic Colors was actually well received and not Sonic Unleashed, but whatever. Alright, no more procrastinating about the story. The story of Sonic Colors is vastly different to everything that came before it. No neutral tones, no soap operas, no balance between light and dark, nothing. Sonic Team must have decided that there was no way they could live up to Sonic Unleashed's plot because we got something no one asked for. If it sounds like I am prematurely panning the plot, I promise I'm not. However, it's just really strange this is what they decided to do.
As an apology for all of his past schemes, Dr. Eggman created an interstellar amusement park. Oh, wow. Yeah, apparently it's open to the public as well. Sonic and Tails suspect there's some evil plan anyways, and they decide to travel to the tropical resort to investigate. After a few levels, an alien interacts with Sonic and Tails. Its name is Yacker, and he sticks around for most of the story. Yacker behaves in a cute manner, and Tails will try to translate what the alien is saying with its Wii U gamepad,
Alec, it's the Miles Electric from Sonic Unleashed. It's essentially a portable computer that was upgraded with a translator.
Oh, right. Well, I think it's a nice touch that Tails expanded the capability of the hardware between games. Something worth noting is that most of the 4Kids cast has been replaced with new voice actors.
Oh, I was reconfiguring my handheld into a translator so I can understand this guy. Did you go somewhere?
Didn't you see? I absorbed those aliens and got powered up with, some kind of wild energy.
We really don't like the change, as the last few games with the 4Kids actors were the best vocal performances that the series has seen. Regardless, they fit the characters well enough. As soon as we are introduced to Dr. Eggman, 2 new characters are introduced. As if Scratch and Grounder weren't enough, we have 2 brand new robot assistants. Meet Orbot and Cubot, and they're comic relief, and I use that term very loosely. Throughout the plot, they have a running gag where Cubot doesn't have the correct voice chip, while Eggman is taking in Sonic's progress, but it feels like this joke is just only there to be a constant interruption to Eggman, therefore making him angry, but it also frustrates the player, making Cubot and Orbot more annoying as a result.
I like Orbot for his indifference to Eggman's explosive attitude, but Cubot was more of a nuisance than anything. Oh, haha, he's funny because he has a pirate voice, now he has a cowboy voice. This running gag doesn't do it for me. Meanwhile, Sonic and Tails are out and about trying to shut down generators that are holding the planets close to the amusement park. But throughout the game, Sonic and Tails fight various bosses with some really bad interactions consisting of corny jokes. Take Aquarium Park, for example. Sonic comes up to the boss asking if it wants to order a clobbering. That's not funny. It's annoying to me, and really the game's story can be summed up as this. When the characters aren't making corny jokes, it's kind of a clever premise for a Sonic game. An interstellar amusement park with planets slowly being devoured by Eggman's machines? I'm game for that, but the jokes are so unfunny and painful to sit through, it's possible to overlook the good things about this premise. And the absolute worst part of the story is that for 90% of the cutscenes, Sonic and Tails are just standing there doing nothing at all. How is this entertaining? There's a severe lack of action, and combined with the corny jokes, Color's plot is not terrible, but a far cry from what the series has been given in the past. The humor in the cutscenes can get a few laughs, but it's kind of cringy.
I want you to get me a cheeseburger and a shake,
Eggman says sarcastically. That would be funny if Cubot didn't ruin it with, "That'll be easier." That joke would have worked for me. Don't get me started on a Baldy McNosehair, that Order of a Clobbering skit. The only one that I find remotely funny was the BBBE, but again, that's kind of crappy kids fodder.
After taking down all the generators, Sonic and Tails are ready to go home since they saved the day, presumably. But it's not over yet, as the park is about to become one massive black hole. The game cleverly alludes to the reasoning of this, that being this. I like the foreshadowing, but how did Orbot's arm get all the way up there?
Plot convenience!
Very well then. Sonic and Tails encounter Eggman, and Sonic sends Tails home while he takes care of Eggman in a pretty epic showdown. The final blow being all the Wisps combining with Sonic into one epic attack, and then a final stage with collapsing platforms. Sonic reunites with Tails and Yacker. The Wisps are free from Eggman's slavery, and now Eggman is stranded in the middle of space, with Orbot and Cubot, who annoys the rest of the folks with his correct voice chip, except this time the joke actually works for me.
With all that being said, I feel that the story doesn't know what it wants to do with the characters it features. It was actually written by Ken Pontok and Warren Graff, 2 guys who wrote for not only the bloody Wii game Mad World, but also the disturbing web series Happy Tree Friends. Did they not know how to write for non-violent characters? The characters we all knew were only there to do what their archetypes tell them to do. Sonic is the confident, cool dude who's a bit cocky. Tails invents things and has a childlike innocence. Eggman is the explosive villain, frustrated at Sonic's progression. The robots are the annoying henchmen who are just there to reply to Eggman's latest schemes. And Yacker is the alien that is the link to all of this. But none of them feel natural. Sonic and Tails don't ever show signs of anxiety except when Tails is looking for Yacker, but that's about it. They feel so stilted and bored talking to one another, and I feel like that's more the director's fault than the voice actors. Either way, there's just no excitement with them.
In fact, I dare say Eggman was more entertaining than Sonic and Tails. Heck, he's probably the best written character in the entire game, since he's built this amusement park, kidnapped the Wisps, is legitimately angry when his plans are falling apart, albeit in a cartoonish way. Also, his PA announcements, barely heard in the game, are some of the funniest dialogue that can be found in the game. Eggman deals with the consequences with frustration, and at the end of the day, seemed to do more for me than Sonic and Tails did in the entire game. Believe it or not, this is something even the simplistic Genesis games understood better. At the beginning of Sonic 2, you see an orange fox try to keep up with you. Throughout the entire game, he helps you. He flies you to this wing fortress where you go alone, enter the Death Egg, you beat Eggman by yourself, destroy that Death Egg, escape from the explosion, and your reward for all of this is Sonic falling to his death until Tails saves him in his biplane, showing an official bond between the two characters who are now friends. Proving to Sonic he needs Tails just as much as he needs Sonic. The only thing remotely close to this is when he pushes Tails into a car back to home, but even then, that scene wasn't that tense, unlike the ending of Sonic 2.
The problem we are having with this story is that they act like the robotization of the 5 planets is just another day in the life. They don't care, and that bothers me because no one cares about anything until the very end, when the whole universe is at the mercy of a black hole. Remember in Sonic Adventure when Eggman launched a missile to destroy the city, but it fails and you race to the unexploded missile before Eggman reaches it? Or those flashbacks of the warrior echidnas? Or when Sonic was going to kill Gamma? The characters reacted in accordance to the dangers around them. They at least experienced some worry about the worst case scenario throughout the entirety of that adventure. The same applies to other outstanding Sonic stories, such as Adventure 2, Unleashed, and Lost World.
But there is some good that came out of it. Eggman is turning the Wisp into Nega Wisp just so he can mind control the world. We see him doing that with Tails in the cutscene before the third boss, but it didn't work on Tails. It is very intriguing seeing Eggman commit to his evil plan throughout the cutscenes. By showing what he can do to Tails for a few seconds, just imagine the possibilities of him doing that to the entire world once all the Wisps are transformed into Nega Wisps. Despite Sonic and Tails seemingly not caring for most of the time, at least the player can watch this evil scheme unfold.
So, overall, Sonic Colors' plot is weak, but has redeeming moments. Some of the characters are also tolerable, but I think we've harped on that long enough. Even though the story wasn't very good, it doesn't hold much weight to this review, being a review of a 3D platformer.
And when replaying the game for the review, I was surprised by how I overestimated and underestimated the platforming of the game. Sonic Colors manages to achieve a delicate balance between speed and platforming, more on the side of platforming. Some have claimed that Sonic Unleashed could be too fast at times, as this introduced the rather derogatory boost to win gameplay, as critics have called it, which is used to describe how collecting rings fills the boost meter, and with Sonic Colors continuing this boost meter mechanic, where you instead collect white wisps, this criticism is applied to Colors as well. Others have claimed that this makes the game too easy, since now you don't earn your speed anymore, but I beg to differ, honestly. Ever since the first few levels, boosting will have some dire consequences if you're reckless about it. Sure, you can plow through enemies, but the game obviously has many more obstacles that require platforming, where boosting is not recommended.
The boost feature returns as Alex stated, and so did the rest of Sonic's moves from Unleashed. However, we got a double jump. It controls not very well. It's too precise, but I can't hide the fact that it's very useful. For example, in many 2D platforming sections, I tend to find myself overshooting or undershooting a jump thanks to the inaccuracy of the double jump. Again, I like its inclusion, but the execution leaves a lot to be desired. Asteroid Coaster Act 2. There's a 2D section containing reverse gravity platforms with walls that pop in and out, posing the danger of pushing you off the level itself and therefore losing a life. Sections like these you'll find all over Colors. These segments are designed well, for the most part, with virtually no instances of cheapness, and despite these 2D sections cashing in the love for 2D Sonic games, they feel different enough to stand out as new and innovative in the 2D Sonic realm, making them not come off as artistically starved. Still though, the double jump makes these sections less enjoyable than they should be. But I do find it odd how most of Sonic Colors consists of these 2D sections. For what's supposed to be a 3D Sonic title, there's a lot to be desired.
I would have designed the game to have half and half to please both types of Sonic fans, and I do see it bothering those who wanted a mostly new 3D game. But if you were to ask Gavin and I, we really don't care because we can find enjoyment out of both playstyles. And as for the 3D sections of the games, they control a little loose at first, but as you earn your speed or boost to increase your speed, Sonic turns easier. But the thing is that they feel much less platformy than the 2D sections, as they mainly consist of homing attack chains or springs, and maybe grinding on walls. Platforming feels rather minimal in comparison to the 2D sections. This doesn't really bother me as most of the levels consist of 3D sections transitioning into 2D sections, which have the platforming challenges you so desire, but it does kind of feel like a downgrade from Sonic Adventure, as clever platforming was incorporated into the 3D sections of that game, like in Lost World. The stage, I don't mean the game. Lost World, you get it? The Ruins level? Just being clear, folks. They feel more linear and less open-ended in comparison to Sonic Adventure stages, which I don't think is wrong from a technical standpoint, but it does answer the question as to why some Dreamcast fans couldn't get into Colors. The same can be said for fans of Unleashed, where Sonic Team managed to mesh platforming with speed in both 2D and 3D sections. Despite how well Colors was received critically, it didn't please everyone.
I think Alec and I can agree that the level design is consistently good throughout the entire game. However, the way the levels are laid out is questionable. In each of the main worlds, there are 6 acts and a boss act, which is fine on paper, but some of the levels are ridiculously short, whereas to even the least skilled player can beat it in under a minute. This is a problem because some of the other levels in one given world can be casually beaten in 2 to 3 minutes, making the short acts come off as very rushed and underwhelming. The solution could have been to combine some of the short zones together so we could have a 3 or 4 act structure. That way, they wouldn't be over before you know it.
You know, come to think of it, this entire game is way too short. It only took me a little over 5 hours to beat the game, not going after the red rings and A rankings, and I'd imagine the game be even shorter for a more skilled Sonic Colors player. Perhaps it's because it was designed for all ages, therefore being an easier game than the likes of the Genesis games. That may sound like a negative criticism, but I do want to emphasize that's just for a casual playthrough. This game's length and challenge does increase if you're going after the A rankings and 5 red rings in each stage.
I want to mention that if you want to A or S rank the stages, all it really amounts to is spamming the Wisp powers, and you're rewarded for that. There's really nothing to it because I believe S ranking should require pixel perfect platforming and timing throughout the level, but even then, A or S ranking all of the stages does nothing except give you extra lives. That's it. The side quest, which should be up Side Quest Gamer's Alley, involves you collecting the red rings so you can unlock the Game Land stages. All you need to do is beat all the Game Land stages to unlock all 7 Chaos Emeralds so you can turn into Super Sonic.
While there's nothing technically wrong with Super Sonic, I personally found Super Sonic to be an interesting but take it or leave it kind of reward. The red rings are not that hard to get, not at all. The problem is how long it takes to do that. There are 36 red ring acts total, meaning you have to collect 180 red rings total, only to play these rather generic Game Land stages, and by the time you unlock Super Sonic, there's nothing to do except maybe play the Terminal Velocity / Final Boss stages if you haven't already, or maybe use Super Sonic to get better stage rankings. Either way, it feels like by the time you unlock this cool reward, there's nothing to do with Super Sonic. I would have preferred the Sonic 3 and Knuckles route, where if you get all 7 Chaos Emeralds and the additional 7 Super Emeralds, you may have a few acts, if not zones, to plow through as your reward for doing so. It's definitely a lot better than the Advanced Trilogy and Adventure games that only allowed you to play as Super Sonic on the final boss stage after collecting the Chaos Emeralds, but it's still not perfect. And that is still an opinion I hold to this day, and it's probably the only major drawback to Sonic Colors. I'm gonna say for this side quest, don't even bother. Unless you have that much fun, which I did, you're only really playing it for the fun of it, but not necessarily for a game-changing reward. Heck, there's not even an alternate ending, which is something the DS version did. Regardless, the stages are pretty fun, but some are better than others.
Alec and I are ready to take you on a tour to each planet in the Interstellar Amusement Park. The first zone is Tropical Resort, the first world of the game, obviously. It teaches you the general mechanics of the 3D playstyle, and progressively shows you the ropes of the 2D playstyle as well. It does a fine job introducing you to what the entirety of the game is going to be like, thanks to the optional hit markers and the on-screen button tutorials that don't interrupt the flow of the levels, making repeat playthroughs just as enjoyable as the first. But you do see empty Wisp capsules, meaning you have to replay these levels once you get the Wisps if you want to complete the game.
Sweet Mountain is the second zone in the game, and I really love the dessert aesthetic so much. It seems a little out of place for a Sonic game, but I honestly wouldn't have it any other way thanks to the very thrilling 2D and 3D sections of the levels, and how there's Eggman machinery standing atop the landscape, making you understand how this world is even possible. There are sections with your usual loops as well as 3D areas making use of the duck slide ability in addition to the areas making use of the yellow drill wisp ability. It's quite an improvement over the first and may probably be my favorite zone in the game. Not that the rest of the zones go downhill in quality or anything, no, far from it.
The third zone is Starlight Carnival, which has a spacey, futuristic aesthetic. From the series of spaceships flying around to a road made entirely out of energy forming in front of you. Whoa. Knowing this zone introduces the blue Wisps, a lot of levels make use of the Wisps' ability, turning blue coins into platforms, as well as vice versa. There's definitely a lot of focus on platforming than there is on speed.
But the best is yet to come with Planet Wisps, the fourth zone of the game, which is a lush flora-rich planet with Eggman's machine slowly destroying everything and occupying it. There's a reason why this zone was remade in Sonic Generations, because the platforming is some of the best in the game thanks to the addition of the pink Wisp ability, which sticks to walls and allows you to traverse it. It's especially satisfying spin dashing up the walls with the Wisp ability, but this is also where the difficulty noticeably rises with some instances of platforming requiring more precise timing. The increase in difficulty isn't artificial, thankfully, and is still relatively easy for the most part.
The fifth zone, being Aquarium Park, has a very unique feudal Japan aesthetic mixed with aquarium tubes and even underwater environments. And yes, you will have to go underwater, which is a curse word among the Sonic community, as water levels are often despised, but thanks to the Wisp abilities like the yellow drill Wisps as well as the boost, and the fact that you can jump infinitely, you don't even have to spend that much time underwater. Even then, it's actually not as slow as the likes of Labyrinth Zone from the first Sonic game. Phew.
And the last main zone is Asteroid Coaster, which is one of my lesser favorite zones in the game because while there is some really satisfying reverse gravity platforming, there are also some really short levels, and one level just requires you to ride a roller coaster and hop to the next one before that one falls into the abyss, which is honestly boring. There are some instances of a series of machinery blocking the way and you need the Frenzy Wisp to eat it all up, but it feels mindless instead of satisfying, and the best thing the zone offers is the cutscene showing what Eggman turns some of the Wisps into.
There is a final zone, more specifically one zone before the final boss and one after. These are the turnable velocity stages, and because the whole amusement park is blowing up, this is where you put all your skills to use in a pretty climactic escape sequence. And with all that being said, all of the zones are consistently well designed. Not all of the levels are meticulously crafted, and there are a select few that feel more rushed, if anything. But I am happy to say that most of the levels in the game are fun and satisfying to play through.
The bosses, on the other hand, could have been improved upon. Now, the Sonic series isn't known for having interesting boss battles, with a select few entries being the exception, but these boss battles are easy, probably in part due to how the first 3 bosses are recolored, redesigned, and recycled for the last 3 zones. The 2 Ferris wheels just require you to get as close to the center and hit the eye with homing attack multiple times. The pirate ship is interesting in the regard that you can only home attack certain cannonballs to gain height, to hit the switch, attack the boss, go through the cannonballs again, hit the switch again, hit the boss again, and it's defeated.
And let's not forget the spaceship that you constantly homing attack and slowly have it fall apart. The first one was fine because it threw obstacles at you, but you could defeat it in multiple ways, from catching up and using the homing attack, or catch up holding one of the wisps it threw at you and do some serious damage to it. It's a fine boss, but then it repeats in Asteroid Coaster, except now there's lasers that shoot at you as well as asteroids. While it's easy, it's also repetitive, and it's disappointing that Sonic Team outright recycled the first 3 bosses and called them original. God, I'd rather play Advanced 2's bosses. At least those weren't as mindless.
Well, Gavin, I agree, but I will say the final boss against the Nega Wisp armor was epic, and a well-executed fight as it threw in obstacles powered by the different colored wisps, making the battle always interesting and especially fun to fight. This is by far the best final boss in any Sonic game I've played for that very reason.
I don't agree.
Well, it may not be the hardest final boss, but it doesn't rely on cheap attacks, nor does it hold your hand. It telegraphs its attacks very well with visual cues like the color of the Dark Wisp robot's back canisters before its attack. Little things like that definitely show thought was put into this particular boss battle.
True, but that doesn't excuse how underwhelming all of the bosses are. You go through all 6 acts anticipating the challenge of a lifetime, and you get a really easy boss that doesn't even complement the difficulty of the stages preceding it. That might be a slight exaggeration, but that is not how you should end off the zone.
With the 6-act structure of the zones, frustratingly unfunny cutscenes, and somewhat underwhelming boss battles in general, this all amounts to a short game that kind of feels longer than it actually is. The pacing is rather weird like that because you're pumped up when beginning a stage, play through a few, but the cutscene interrupts and doesn't give you anything remotely interesting for the most part because of how stilted the characters are. You can luckily skip the cutscenes, but judging Sonic Colors' pacing for everything it offers, it just feels longer than it is at the end of the day, and as a result feels more disjointed if anything.
Perhaps. With a high-energy game like Sonic, you would expect that the characters that do take the speed of the game down would offer some payoff. But as we stated before, they don't. Even when the cutscenes are building up this supposedly epic boss battle ahead, the cutscene after just shows Sonic and Tails disabling a planet generator. Nothing epic just happened, and therefore no payoff. Not only that, but the 6-act structure makes you feel like you're about to go through 6 levels of decent length. Again, that's what you'd expect, but there are really short stages, and decent length stages one after another sometimes, which does disrupt the pace of the game. Because if you stop and say, wait, that was it? You know something is not right. Alec and I have harped on the plot with their pacing issues, but we really want to stress how these pacing issues are present throughout the entire experience. Pacing is not everything, but it limits the potential of Sonic Colors. Period.
This is what I think preceding games like the Genesis games and the Advanced Trilogy do much better. There are only as many levels as the game needed, whether it be a 2 or 3 act structure, with a 2nd or 3rd act having a boss battle at the end of it. You feel like it started and ended at the right place. In Sonic Advance 2, at least Sonic interacted with the characters in a way that didn't interrupt the flow while moving the story along. That is good pacing, and something Sonic Colors should have grasped a little better. I wouldn't mind it if they combined a few of the stages and added more zones, maybe fix up the cutscenes to make them worthwhile, and that would be a finely paced Sonic game, while not making it too short.
One of the best aspects of Sonic Colors is undoubtedly the presentation. While the visuals look a bit pixelated and the graphics as a whole are shameful for a Wii game in the year of 2010, the art style and colors really pop. I mean, as in, they really do. Because the levels are so inspired and creative, it hides the graphical quality of Sonic Colors rather well. The cutscene animations are not as fluent as they were in Unleashed, but certainly get the job done.
And boy, did we really enjoy the soundtrack. I mean, I'm not usually into the electronic dominant soundtracks that are present in a lot of modern games, and they surprisingly work very well with this game. Not just for the context of the game, but they also work as standalone music pieces.
The creation of Sonic Colors soundtrack was led by musical mastermind Tomoya Otani. He, along with many numerous people, create a variety of tunes for the game. The soundtrack has just enough variety, and the composition is overall quite excellent. My favorite example is how the composers remixed every Act 1 theme 2 times to give the other levels some more flavor. These remixes are barely even that. They mostly comprise of new rhythms and instruments, which I love. The detail is also very nice. For each of the linear hub worlds in the game, the composers created a whole new track just for them, even though you'll spend no longer than 10 seconds in each at a time. Hey look, they even got the ESPN jingle. The instrumentation is all around a complete mixed bag though. The more digitalized sounds for the horns in Sweet Mountain, the dubstep in the theme song, and the synthesizers are sometimes good, sometimes not. But nowhere does it sound bad. Let's not embellish here.
Call me a pretentious music snob, even though that couldn't be farther from the truth, but there's nothing more fake sounding than the whiny auto-tune vocals. While the background composition is fine, this is a lot of people's first impressions, and I was frankly embarrassed to watch that intro video when other people were in the room with me. And oh boy, that credits theme. I have more pleasant thoughts about the rhythm of a garbage disposal than I do these vocals.
As for the orchestrated pieces in the game, well, they're so few and far between, but the main theme of Sonic Colors, as it's called, as well as the options menu theme are some of the best in the game. Take a listen. I can't really tell if they are live performed or made from a music software. I know what you're saying, Gavin, come on, all you need to do is listen and you can tell if the music piece was live performed or not. Well, I used to say that myself, but for the longest time I insisted that Arid Sand's Night was live performed because of the sax solo. And I was right. Still, some say Unleashed soundtrack was mostly fake, but after doing research, most of it was real. The same can sadly not be said for Color's soundtrack, but does it really matter if the pieces sound nice anyway? Not really. Anyways, the instrumentation may not be the best, but Colors has one hell of a soundtrack, composition-wise.
So Sonic Colors, as we observed, is still a good game. I mean, it's not the crown jewel of the series, nor even the 3D titles, but like most good games, its few imperfections don't really hold it back for me.
While Sonic Colors is undoubtedly nowhere near the quality of Sonic Unleashed, it's certainly a great attempt at merging the Sega design philosophy with the Nintendo design philosophy, and in a way that produced an excellent product that this series should be proud to include. It's not flawless, as the story and pacing as well as overall content are borderline destructive issues. Still though, Alec and I have played and analyzed this game for a long time, and we still believe the positives well outweigh the negatives, especially gameplay-wise.
Absolutely, Gavin. The gameplay is refined from Unleashed, the Wisps are well implemented and are fun to use, and you have some fantastic presentation all around. Something worth noting is that for as little content as Sonic Colors offers, it's still extremely replayable thanks to the Egg Shuttle, where you can marathon every stage with no interruption, almost like a classic Sonic game. And something neither of us have mentioned is that Sonic Colors is filled to the brim with charm. When you feel that developers were having fun making the product you're playing, it will undoubtedly improve your experience as a whole. The charm factor even makes the story's more lame moments actually enjoyable.
And with this analysis over, it's time to accurately recommend Colors. It's certainly a flawed game, but it's extremely appealing to a wide range of people thanks to its more Nintendo-like design. You can find the Wii version of Sonic Colors for dirt cheap. If your local store doesn't have a copy, you'll spend no more than $10 for a new copy on Amazon. With that in mind, as well as what Alec and I have said in this video, we deem Sonic Colors very worthy of your time. Not choosing to play this game is a massive disservice to yourself. Go play it!
Even months later, when the big question has been asked whether modern Sonic ever worked in the first place, I'm going to say yes. And to my viewers out there, I still maintain that Sonic Colors is good. It's not my favorite Sonic title, but I do think it's an improvement over Unleashed, even though Unleashed had the better story. But I just really like how the gameplay is more focused on the speed of Sonic. Even if it doesn't utilize the momentum that we've seen in the Genesis titles, the modern titles are their own unique Sonic playstyle that's meant for a very specific audience like myself. But as always, thank you all so much for watching, and remember to stay awesome. And with all time travel cliches that YouTube reviewers tend to use, I better get back to my own time because some time paradox that's caused by editing effects happens. Whoa! I gotta go. Whatever. Alright, but I seriously doubt it's one of those Terra-Psyquestian forces. They won't be around for a while. Freeze! What are you doing here? Oh, jeez.